Sony recently announced their mid-gen refresh for their 9th generation gaming console. The announcement of this PlayStation 5 Pro was met with a fairly lukewarm reception, rightfully so in my opinion. The console, slated to release in November, would retail for $700 here in the United States, and depending where in the world you are, it could be even more. Despite this price hike, the console does not come with a disc drive or even a plastic stand. Those will run you back $80 and $30 respectively. Also accounting for taxes, you're looking at probably around $1,000 Freedom dollars for a fully spec'd out PS5 Pro, and by fully spec'd out I mean matching the original launch PS5 in terms of utility. With prices so high, that definitely puts the PS5 Pro in what I consider to be enthusiast territory. Now, that's not to say this console isn't an upgrade. It comes with a more powerful GPU, so in terms of raw rendering, it's superior to the base model, relatively speaking of course. There's also an increase in ray tracing performance, if that's what you fancy, and their new upscaling tech called PSSR, or PISR? Odd naming choice aside, from what they showed, you'll be able to run some older games at 60 FPS without sacrificing visual quality, which is good. I mean, is it 200 extra bucks good? I'd say no, but that's just me. With this console being so much more expensive whilst giving what seems to be fairly mid-performance gains, it brings forth a few questions. Who's this console for? Is it worth an upgrade? And when looking at the price of the PlayStation 5 Pro, is it now time to look into the PC market? Well, I'm the Evernight Writer, and welcome to the show. On this channel I talk about video games, whether it's video game news or deep dives into specific titles. We do it all here. If you like that kind of stuff, consider subscribing. I'm small right now, so that really helps. Now, let's discuss. The first two questions are pretty easy. Who's the console for? Well, I've narrowed it down to three general types of people. The first one is that first-time buyer who has no idea what's going on. They see the PS5 Pro, see the extra $200 and just presume that it's a way better console and just get it without thinking. Then there's the fanboy, the type of guy who buys everything PlayStation puts out without even thinking about it. You know, they definitely own a PSVR headset and they got like maybe 7 PlayStation controllers. And you know they have the base PS5, the PS5 Slim, they just get everything, they don't really consider it. Lastly, there's the guy where money is no object to him and he wants the best possible experience while playing his PlayStation exclusives, or any game for that matter, but he's just too lazy to manage a computer. There's one other type of person this console could potentially be for, but we'll talk about that a little bit more later on. So these are who the console is for. Anyone else is just better off with the base model in my opinion. This transitions us into the second question of whether or not it's worth upgrading to the PS5 Pro. And I mean, no. If you have a PlayStation 5 already, for the majority of people, you're just better off waiting for the PlayStation 6. Maybe it would be worth it if there were a few new games that played substantially better on the Pro model, but that's just not the case from what I've seen. Right now, it's not really worth it from what I can tell. So, with the more expensive price and the console arguably being in enthusiast territory, should people just start looking towards the PC industry? Well, it's complicated. The PS5 Pro is $700 or more depending on where you are. Can you build a computer that would offer equal performance for the same price? Well, no, definitely not. Even when looking at used parts, it's still difficult. The equivalent GPU to what the PS5 Pro has, I'd say would be a 4000 series graphics card from Nvidia, probably the 4060 or 70. With that alone, you're looking at $400 to $500. Then to account for a CPU, motherboard, RAM, 2 TB of storage, that pushes you well over $700. And that's not even including a case or power supply. So if we're looking at this at face value, then the PlayStation is just a better deal, like consoles usually are. But if you really dig into it, a computer might be cheaper in the long term. Obviously, a computer doesn't necessitate a subscription to play online, but even games on PC are often generally just cheaper. Not only are there regular Steam sales, but by using game keys, you can get even the newest releases with a fairly decent discount. While the base entry might be more expensive in the long term, a computer can be quite a bit cheaper. If you're truly budget-minded and you got a little bit of patience, you can build a computer for cheap now and pimp it out later. For example, while the computer I have right now isn't exactly top of the line, I can play pretty much everything. Can't say the same about when I started. When I first built my current computer, it cost me like $350 that I'd save up from wherever I could get my hands on money. I was actually considering getting a PS4 Slim, but ultimately decided to build a cheap low-end PC. The console would have allowed me to play most modern games fairly well, but I chose the PC anyways because of its utility. It allowed me to start this YouTube channel and make these videos, which to be fair are sort of amateurish, but I'd like to say I've gotten better. But I didn't just blindly build a computer. I built it whilst thinking about how I'd upgrade it. I got a decent power supply and a motherboard I'm still using to this day. So while the initial performance was awful, I literally had a dual-core processor and was running on integrated graphics, but upgrading it, I have a way more powerful rig. All that being said, let's not kid ourselves here. If you're even considering buying the PS5 Pro, you're probably not worried about the cost. You probably just want the best possible experience. That brings the question, why not just spend some more and get a computer? And I get some people just don't want to go through the hassle of building a computer yourself, but then you can always just get a pre-built, even though it is marked up. A computer will offer more functionality and flexibility than a console. That being said, the simplicity of a console sitting in your living room is something I can appreciate. But if that's really what you want, then just get the normal PS5. Why pay the extra $200? And that's why the PlayStation 5 Pro is so confusing to me. It's clear Sony doesn't expect this console to overtake the base model. Very few people will actually upgrade to this thing. The only way this could make sense is if Sony expects a lot of people who don't have consoles to enter the market. And well, this is where GTA 6 comes in and that other group of players I was telling you about. This being the most anticipated game in history means that it will pull not only a lot of new curious people into the gaming market, but considering GTA 6 is probably going to launch on consoles first, some PC players will be looking into picking up a box too. Of course, I'm a broke college kid and I've more or less accepted the fact that I won't be playing GTA 6 at launch, but I know a lot of people with PCs who are ready to pay up. Sony is likely banking on GTA 6 to move some of those consoles. That brings the question, how will the PS5 run the game? In a perfect world, GTA 6 would run at a smooth, buttery 60 FPS on console, but even with the upgrade, I don't know that it will. The PS5 Pro got an upgrade to its GPU, but the CPU was presumably left untouched. From what we've seen and know of GTA 6, it's likely going to be a very CPU-intensive title. Graphically, GTA 6 is going to be a very intensive game, obviously. But when looking at large open-world simulation and the density of NPCs GTA 6 is probably going to have, it will be eating through CPUs. This is why I'm not quite sold on the idea that GTA 6 will run at 60 FPS. But if the experience is more or less the same on PS5 Pro as it is on the base console, it brings the question, why even bother spending the extra? But who knows, maybe it will run better on the PS5 Pro, what do I know? There are a lot of things still up in the air, but at this point, if you're looking into getting a console, just get the normal PS5, it's well worth the $500. But if your wallet is large and you want the best possible gaming experience, maybe consider building a tower, or maybe even just getting a pre-built. Anyways, that's the end of this show. Let's discuss in the comments. I'm interested to hear your perspectives on this, and have yourselves a good night.